And welcome to another grading video where you will get to learn how to grade comic books, or at least learn how I do it. Or if that doesn't interest you, at least we'll have some fun looking at some cool old Silver Age DC comic books. So stick around and have some fun. Maybe you'll learn something before we're done. Hey Bobby, welcome to Shanghai. My name is Duke, and this is another grading video. This time out, we are looking at Rip Hunter Time Master, World's Finest Comics, and then under here we also have some Tales of the Unexpected. So, I think this will be a good stack of comic books to work on. These are all pretty high grade, considering these are probably going to be mostly in the 775 range, so that's exciting. Let's start off before we get to it with the beg and the disclaimer. The beg is please like, share, subscribe, do all of those things. Please comment down below, whether you want to take me to task for how I grade or you just want to chat about some of these books and series. That would be fun. I'd be happy to entertain any of your thoughts, whether you like what I have to say or just you want to beat me up over anything that I have said in error. And then, of course, the disclaimer is that these are not my books. I am grading these for work, and these will end up on eBay probably within a week or two of when this video goes live on YouTube. And the eBay account is .com Comics. The store in Freeport, Maine is .com Comics and Collectibles, .comcomics.com. We also have books for sale there, as we do on another website, sellmycomicbooks.com. So lots of resources, and also the YouTube channel Sell My Comic Books, where you may have seen some of these books unboxed when they first come in the collections that we buy across the country and around the world. But the books that are singled out for sale on eBay as what we call raw singles, meaning they're not sent to CGC and graded, they instead end up on my desk where I do the grading, and they end up on eBay. So let's get to it. Let's take a look. Rip Hunter Time Master. This is issue number 13, and this is, what is it? 1963. Bill Eli is the artist. And so I usually, when I do, I pick up a book, I do kind of an instant assessment, good, fine, near mint. Well, this is closest to fine. And is it fine or very fine? Well, it's kind of getting very fine-ish. So fine is a 6.0, a very fine is an 8.0, and in between, of course, would be the fine, very fine 7.0. So that's when I start taking kind of a closer look at what we've got here. Spine is what we always look at first, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stress lines. Nothing real major, nothing that amounts to a tear, but all of them do break color. Our corners are all kind of blunted a little bit. We've got a little bit of a depression. Where is it? Right here. Little, I don't want to call it a puncture mark, but something hit that. And then we've got a little kind of bends here and here. I don't know what that's all about. But this edge looks nice, except I thought I saw kind of a micro tear. Yeah, there's a couple, 2, 3. And when I say a micro tear, what I mean is like less than 1/8 of an inch. Pages look okay, starting to tan a little bit at the bottom. Back cover is still pretty white. And you can see only here at the bottom staple did one of those stress marks kind of come around to the back side as kind of a tear. You still have a couple of ones here that would break the color if there was indeed any color there. Let's look inside. I always kind of look at the back cover, see if it's tight, flip through, make sure everything is there, nothing's missing. And we always want to kind of stop off and look at the centerfold, make sure that's nice and tight, make sure it's actually there. I've gotten to the point, I've been doing this long enough that I can usually tell by the weight of a comic book or the feel of it whether or not it is missing any pages. But I always check the centerfold anyway, just in case. So you know what? Look at that. Can you see that tear at the bottom around the bottom staple was a little more than we thought it was, because that's actually detached. You wouldn't hardly tell from the outside. So here's a good question for you. Also have a little bit of a depression right there as well. You know, this book would be kind of an apparent, well, there's a little fold there. You know, an easy 7, maybe a 7.5, right? So how much do you knock off for it being detached at the bottom staple? It's okay on the top staple. I think I would still call this a 5. I wouldn't go down as far as a 4.5, but I don't think I can quite call it a 5.5 either. 5.5 is fine minus, and you know, a fine, a 6.0, should look like it's been read once or twice, but handled, you know, with reasonable care. This is a little better than that, but I still think that you know, at a that centerfold, I mean not centerfold, that cover detached at the bottom staple, I think that's going to drag us down to a 5. That's a very good fine. So that sort of captures it. It's still a very apparent fine plus, but still does take off. You know, I might take off more if the tearing around here was more apparent. And you might remember, if you watched the last video, I think I knocked I think I went down to a 4 or a 4.5 on a cover detached, and it was detached at both, but it was apparent, you know, the tears around the staples. It was apparent just from looking at it that the cover was detached. Here, well, if you look at it carefully, you can see, if you hold it on edge, but just looking at it, you might not know. So I am going to call that a 5. Now, it's kind of my long-winded way of saying I'm going to go ahead and call that a 5, and I'm going to invite you to please, you know, leave a comment and tell me what you would do. What would you grade that out as? You know, if it looks pretty good, except for that one staple being detached, that one, you know, the cover being detached from that one staple. Next issue is number 14, another decent looking issue, although we have more stressing along here. There's probably 10 or 12 or 15. A little more blunting, a little more folding. I think this one's probably would be a 6.5. But let's look at the rest of it. Make sure, well, you got a little bit of a water stain right here. And that's going to bring us down maybe to a 5.5. From a 6.5 to a 5.5. It's not that heavy. You might almost miss it at first. You might just think it was a little bit of soiling, but if you look at it, it's definitely a water stain. Let's look at the inside cover, if I can do that without manhandling it too much. Yeah, can you see it better there? Definite water stain, which is unfortunate. But again, I don't think our damage is enough to bring it down to a 4.5, although, you know, as you've heard me say in past videos, there are some people out there that are really hard on water stains. You know, I am hard on water damage. I am super hard when there's rust on the staples. I don't like that at all, and I will attack the grade at that. But with this, even with that little water stain, I think I'm still going to call that, you know, this might be a 6.5. It would be like a 7, except for this kind of fold here. Brings it down to a 6.5. Maybe a little micro tear here. Yeah, it'd be a tough call between a 6.5 and a 7. You got quite a few stress marks now that I think about it. You know, so maybe a 6.5, 7, and that would bring it down to maybe a 6. So how much are we going to knock off of that water stain? I think 1 full point. I'm going to bring it down to a 5. That's what I am going to do. And if you feel differently, then I want very much for you to leave a comment and let me know why you disagree. So this one is kind of weird. This kind of discoloration here. And I don't know. I don't think that's part of the original coloring, but it doesn't look like any kind of a stain or anything. That's kind of bizarre. I don't know what to make of that. And you actually have some along here too. So maybe it is. You know, I think this might be This might have come off the press like this. This might have been at the very beginning or end of the press run where there was just a little too much red on the roller, because this orange is made probably by mixing red, or magenta we call it, and yellow, which is cayenne, or do I have those backwards? It's not red, blue, and yellow. It's indigo. It's magenta, cayenne, and indigo. Anyway, whatever we're calling red, there's too much red there mixed in with the yellow, and I think that's the problem. I think this was a book that was probably right at the beginning of the press run when there was too much red on the roller. So we've got so again, what I'm getting at is I'm not going to knock that down as much. I mean, this isn't as desirable a copy as if it didn't have this kind of red splotching. But, you know, it's a printing defect is not marked down nearly as much as a handling defect, sometimes really not at all. There are some people who will tell you that little bindery tears top and bottom are not something that you take off points for. Got a little bit of a stress mark there, otherwise just a few kind of ticks. Back cover looks good. Look at the inside. You got actually, I said back cover, back cover looks good, except that you've got kind of a compression right here. Almost looks like a thumb. Somebody's thumb was pressed a little too hard there. And I thought I saw a statement of ownership and circulation, but maybe that's not what I was looking at. I was going to tell you how well this book was selling. Is it? No. I guess I imagined it. Yeah, that'll happen sometimes. Let's look at the centerfold if we can find it. I think I passed it. There it is. Nice and tight. Everything looks good on the centerfold. Everything looks good and tight on the inside cover. A little bit of tanning at the bottom. Not too bad. I think that book's an easy... I think that's a 7.5. Some of these ticks are a little heavy. And you got that top corner. Yeah, it's probably a 7. Coloring. So I think I'm going to end up calling that book a 7. I might be able to get away with a 7.5, but I don't really want to press my luck. Now this book, though, this could be a 7.5. This could almost be an 8. You got a little bit of a rounding right here, a little bit of a kind of a compression there. Tiniest amount of blunting on that corner. I don't see any stress marks. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and that corner's a little blunted, but I think that's a decent 8, unless we've got something else. Well, we've got paper's a little ragged, but that's not actually torn anywhere. I think that's just kind of a rough cut on the press. You got a little bit of soiling here. And I don't know. Got a little bit of a rip here around that bottom staple, which just took us off the 8. And it might even be detached. Let's take a hard look at it. It's not detached, at least on that side. Let's take a look at this side. No, not detached. Oh, well, here's a statement. So, Rip wasn't you, because you may recall that from about this time frame in previous videos, the last couple of videos, we've been looking at My Greatest Adventure and House of Secrets. It looks like Rip was kind of right in between those two. Oh, also Metalman. Metalman was far and away the best of the 4. But it looks like the average number of copies the preceding 12 issues, 194,000 per month. And the issue closest to the filing date, 177,000. So Rip was losing some readers already here at issue 21. And that probably factored into the decision to cancel the book. I think, how long did Rip last? Issue 31 maybe? 32? I don't think he got too deep into the 30s. And that's probably because, and possibly, I don't know, Are you familiar with Rip Hunter? Did you read a lot of the Silver Age Rip Hunter? Do you think the stories got repetitive? Do you think maybe the art wasn't that exciting? What do you think factored in? Because it looks to me like it was selling pretty good, and then it just kind of faded out there and got canceled, and Rip went into limbo for a long, long time. So you know what? I think I'm going to call this a 7.5. I would call it an 8, although we get a little blunting there, except for these kind of rips here at the bottom staple on the back. So I think that needs to be a 7.5. Boy, I thought we were going to have an 8 there, but it wasn't to be. It just was not to be. You can't have everything. Where would you put it? All right, here's a rip 22. She looks very startled. And this is a good looking book, so this could maybe be an 8. 8 is a very fine. You know, you don't have really any stress marks here to speak of along the spine. A little one there at the bottom staple, but nothing that really breaks color too much. Some blunting there at the top, blunting here. All the corners are kind of blunted, and this one is bent just a merest amount. Back cover's pretty white. Not too shabby. Spine looks good on the back. Let's look inside. A little fold there at the top. Oh, that's too bad. You can see here at the bottom a chip out of most of those pages. And that's probably a printing defect. Can't imagine how somebody would have read it in a way that would have torn those bottom corners. I hope you can see that. So I think I'm going to call it a 7.5. If it wasn't for the multiple pages, and maybe you can see in there that bottom edge, all having those chips torn out, and it's about half the book that has that. If it wasn't for that, I would call that an 8. And you could probably even talk me into an 8.5, but I think I'm going to go down to a 7.5. Just because of those chips taken out. All right, now we are into Tales of the Unexpected. Space Ranger, kind of the poor man's Adam Strange. You may not know it, but there was a bet between Julius Schwartz and who was the other editor? Well, it was the editor of this book, whoever it was. Let's look in the indicia. Does it say who the editor is? This is called the indicia. Some people call it the indicia. It should tell me the editor's name. I'm blanking on it. Oh, George Cashton, editor. So George and Julie had a bet who could come up with the best recurring space-based character. Julie Schwartz was the editor of Mystery in Space. George Cashton was editing Tales of the Unexpected. And so Julie came up with Space Ranger. Not Space Ranger. Julie came up with Adam Strange. And George here in Tales of the Unexpected came up with Space Ranger. And they were both the lead feature of their books for quite a while. And I think the bet was which one would be more popular, would sell better. And, of course, in the end, that was Adam Strange, which might have been helped by the fact that Adam was set in present day and so could cross over with the Justice League and other things. Space Ranger here is far in the future with his little elf booties. So anyway, that's that's my story. You can look it up if you don't believe me. I probably got some of the details wrong, but that's the general. Look at this. You got another one where it's all kind of chewed up here in the bottom corner. And this one is early enough that the statement of ownership and circulation doesn't give us the actual circulation. What is this? Probably 64? Huh. Well, anyway, it's probably going to be a 6.5 because you got this fold up here with a little blunt. A couple of ticks there. So that ordinarily would be maybe put us in the 6 range, but the rest of the book looks so nice that and this fold here is part of the printing process, so that's not a handling thing. Let's look inside. The pages look decent, although you got those chips there. Forgot about those. That's probably going to put us down to a 6, I think, now that I think about it. Although, boy, I'd like to call that I'd really like to call it a 6.5, and I might anyway. Even with these chips out of the... it's not as many as the last issue that we looked at. I am going to call that a 6.5. So if you think I screwed up that grading, by golly, you leave a comment down below. You let me know. I used to say when I was a newspaper reporter, if you don't like what I did, let me know. If you do like what I did, by all means, please tell my boss. So yeah, if you don't like what I did here with this grading, let me know. Tell me. Make sure it's me you tell. This is a nice looking book. Let's find that centerfold. Nice and tight. Looks good. That all looks good. And by golly, you got a little blunting on that top corner. Little bit of a bindery tear there. But you've only got maybe 1, 2, or 3. And then a little blunting there. This one I'm going to call an 8. This, I think, over the last 3 or 4 videos that we've done, we've all had some pretty good looking Silver Age DC books. And by good looking, I'm talking, 7.75s, a few 6s. But I think that's the first one that I am actually going to go right up to an 8. If I wanted to be bold, I might be able to get away with an 8.5. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 stress lines and top and bottom of the spine, but I think I can still get away with an 8. I think somebody would get that book as an 8 and not really complain about it. Tales of the Unexpected, number 85, The Day Red Turned to Green. Oh, that poor girl with her green hair. She looks like Poison Ivy. There's another good-looking book, but this one's, as soon as I say that, we got about an 1/8 of an inch bottom spine split, little tear there. And we have some more stressing along the spine, more than the last issue. But I bet this is still a 7. A little bit of compression there, and a little bit of a dust shadow maybe. Inside looks good. Centerfold looks good. A little bit of soiling here. I'm going to call this one, if it wasn't for this, is that a tear? That's not just soiling, that's a little bit of a tear, it is. God dang it. God dang it. See, yeah, can you see that? So it's about maybe 1/4 of an inch, not quite 1/4 of an inch. So I guess I'm going to go 6.5 on that. We went right from an 8 to a 6.5. Boy, how the fortunes plummet. And this might be another 8. This is a good looking book. A little bit of funkiness around that bottom staple, but not much. Very, very little going on the spine here. Just the merest color breaks. A little compression right there. Blunted, but the corners and the edges are pretty tight. Back looks good. You can see a little more in the back what I was saying funky. It's not that bad. It's just noticeable. And as we look at the inside and we find the centerfold, it all looks good. That's another one I'm going, oh wait. I just saw it in the light. There's a little bit of a fold all the way up through here. And it's not a fold. It's not a subscription crease. You know, books used to be mailed, that were sent through the mail via subscription. They used to fold them right in half and put them in a mailer. Um, but this is not a subscription crease because it's still nice and flat up here. So I think that's just a case of somebody folded back the cover or something. Well, that knocked us out of the 8 range and down to a 7.5. Might be a 7, but it's a 7.5 because you only really notice it when you hold it right in the light. And then you can see that it is a fold. It doesn't even break the color, but you can see that bend. You could press that out. So if you got this book and you pressed it, you could turn that into a 7.5, probably almost into an 8.5. So you do that. You buy that book and you do that very thing. And I think you would be happy with that. I do. And now, I hope I get this on camera right. I've got a low battery warning that is blurring out the image. But the way the iPad is held in my tripod here, I can't actually click that off without dismounting the whole thing. So I'm just going to hope. I'm just going to hope, A, that I'm still recording, and B, that this is actually on camera. All right, let's work through these pretty quick. This is a nice looking book. This is an 8 for sure. You got a little bit of a blunting depression there, but almost no stressing on the side. Just a few of the very kind of very minor tick marks. Edges are nice, just the merest amount of blunting. But that's a bindery tear. That's not a handling thing. The merest amount of blunting on the edges. You do have a fold here, unfortunately, and that took us out of the 8 range, even though you have to kind of hold it to the light to see it. But that whole corner has been folded back at some point, and you got a little chip down here. Well, so I said it was the pages, though. The pages are not bad at all. By golly. So what do we got in here for this World Finest? We've got Green Arrow. It looks like Mort Meskin, maybe. Hard to tell. Who else we got? Oh, no, it's just Superman, Batman, and Green Arrow. Just 2 features. But I'm going to 7.5 on that. I want to go an 8, except that that's been folded back. And there's enough other just kind of, well, this has been, you got a little bit of a fold there as well. There's enough other minor things, just minor, like little ticks, 4 or 5 little ticks here, and that indentation there that does break the color. Otherwise I could probably still get away with calling it an 8, but that fold in the back I think needs to be a 7.5 just because of the volume of other things. All right. Well, this one, unfortunately, the Curse of the Black Cover, they are heavier stresses anyway, but they show up all the more because of the black cover, and probably when this was read, it was folded back because you can see how that's kind of bent. It's starting to roll, and you got a kind of a bend there. It's light. You don't really have much of a crease or anything, but I think this is going to bring us down to maybe even a 6. Let's look inside. And now it's Aquaman and the World's Finest team. What era is this? This is 63. So I think I'm going to call that a 6. I can call it a 6.5, I think. It's too bad. It'd be nice to call it a 7, but there's just too much there, and then with kind of the roll. And then you can't see it, but the edges here are both worn enough that it's like breaking color just on the very, very edge. So there's that. This next issue, actually both of these issues, I see a lot And I don't know why, but I see them in a lot of collections. Or maybe it just seems that way because I have them both in my collection. Mine are not in this nice of a shape, I will grant you. But I see these two issues a lot. Don't know why that is. Usually it's a summer issue. So December, that would have been on sale in September, October, yeah, September. February, that would have been on sale in November. So neither one of these is a summer issue. Back during this era, you got sales spikes in the summer and less sales in the summer. And in fact, a lot of DC's books were only published 8 times a year to sort of account for those variations in annual circulation. Boy, Robin, I have no words. He's tiny, tiny, tiny little midget man. I know he's supposed to be like maybe a kid, like 13, 14. But the face looks kind of adult, but he just looks like he's he just looks more like he just looks out of proportion to the others. It's kind of bugging me, frankly. Oh well, let's not worry about that. Let's do the condition. Do I have something there? Light and pencil, maybe, or maybe not. It's hard to tell. But you do have some staining right across here, like there, like. Oh, that looks like a fingerprint. And then we've got maybe a fingerprint in this D here. You know, and then the ink maybe is smeared a little bit. Huh. What? Yeah, you got, half a dozen small spine ticks, little larger rips around the bottom staple. You got some tears and blunting down here at the bottom. Let's look at the inside. Green arrow. Excuse me. And there's the super dudes. So I think I'm going to call this a 6. I would be inclined to call it a 7, except for the tear down here and the blunting is a little heavy, and you get some kind of heavier stuff here. And I would be at least a 6.5, but I think we're going to have to go down to a 6 because of the kind of fingerprints and kind of oily smearing here around this D. So I'm going to call that a 6. This issue is not looking that bad. You got a little bit of a fold here where it looks like it got pressed in as somebody was reading it. And some little blunting along there. A few spine ticks, maybe half a dozen, 6 or 7, all very small. This book looks like it was maybe read once or twice, which is, you know, that's the textbook definition of a fine. Statement of ownership, but no actual numbers. Aquaman is our backup. There's sob, choke. I would dare somebody to write sob or choke or something like that. Well, first I don't know if I dare him to do a thought balloon. I mean that's verboten in comics today, a thought balloon. But just to have the sob. Probably Tom King. That would be appropriate for a Tom King book. Batman sobbing. Simpering sobbing. I think this is a 7.5. It would be a 7.5, I think, except for that fold right there. It's about almost an inch long. Other than that, though, that book looks really good. You've got, well, maybe If you hold the light just right, you can see a lot more ticks there than I initially thought. So I think I'm going to go with a 7. Still a good looking book. Like I said, it's better than the copy I have in my own personal collection. All right, some Kurt Swan art. So finally, the art here has been, probably the inside art is still kind of rough. No, it is Kurt Swan inside as well. So World's Finest is picking up. Love me some Nightwing and Flamebird. What do we got going on here? Blunting. Edge is pretty good. A little blunting on the corners. 1, maybe 2 or 3, 4 smaller ticks, but otherwise not bad. Back cover looks nice and white. Which is funny, that back cover is so white, but the inside pages are tanning up a little bit. I think I'm going to call that an 8. No, maybe not. Well, maybe yes. No, maybe not, because we've got something right here. Oh, yeah. You probably can't see it on camera, and maybe if I hold it close enough you'll see, but there's a little bit of a paper shear right here. Like the top layer of paper is kind of ripped away right there. It looks like, and it's a little rough, and it actually goes this whole triangle right here. You know, I'm not actually touching the paper with this pen, don't panic, but just to point out, the paper is sheared away right there, but this whole damage goes that whole corner. Very hard to see. It looks like what happened is somebody got a drop of water on there and maybe wiped it away real quick, but just a little too hard, and took off the top layer of paper. So I actually think I'm going to call that a 6.5 now. I was like, I'm still going to call it a 7 anyway. But now I think I'm going to call it a 6.5. I think with the rest of the book, I don't want to go as far down as a 6. You only really see it if you hold it in the light just right. And you got to actually feel it to feel that it's a little rougher right there. I think I can still call that a 6.5. But that's still quite a drop from, I was almost about ready to call it an 8. All right, here we go. So, boom. Batman and, Brainiac and Clayface. One of the Clayfaces. Now, this is a good looking book. You got a little blunting here, a little bend there. A couple of ticks here. Only a couple of them break color, 3 or 4 or 5. Little blunting there, but not bad. You can still see that blunting here. Looks like something, boom, hit it somehow. Aquaman. Is that a 2-page Bullwinkle? Oh, no. Okay, just one. It's like a 2-page Bullwinkle ad. That would be something. So, centerfold looked fine. Everything looks fine. Yeah, I'm going to go with 7.5 on that. I would have gone an 8. But we've got, like I said, a few ticks along here. And that blunting, I think, keeps us out of an 8. Again, something hit it and compressed that whole middle of the book. So I don't think I can get away with calling it an 8, but by golly, I can call it a 7.5. 2 more books. That's it. World's Finest, 145. Where are we now? Mid-60s? 64, still kind of early. And what do we got? We've got some stress here. You can see how it breaks the color in that W. One going that way, one going that way. A little bit of compression here, so it looks like maybe that whole corner got a bit of a punch. But really, other than that, along the spine, we've got just this one tick there. Oh, one there. Boy, that book looks good except for that. Oh yeah, but you can see on this back side, you've got some compression, some tearing, and some folding here. So, and very bottom of this cover, if you can see, is torn away. But, oops, who was the backup? Must be Green Arrow's turn. Yep. I'm going to call that a 7. Yeah, actually, you got a little bit of a fold right here, too. I guess I've got to call it a 7. I really want to call it a 7.5, but you've got a little too much damage here in the back. Not enough that I need to go down to a 6.5, a fine plus, but although maybe I should. Rest of the book just looks so nice, though. But yeah, I'm going to call it a 6.5. That's a shame. But because of this damage here on the back, you know, you've got a couple of heavy stress lines there, and that's all blunted in. So it's too bad, because you look at that book and you immediately almost think it's an 8, maybe an 8.5, and then you start picking it apart. Kind of like this one. This looks good, but we've got blunting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 tick marks. None of them that heavy except towards the top there. Some blunting here. Is this the infamous Batman Joins the Legion?